All right, let's talk about something we all deal with, why our messages so often get completely lost in translation. And more importantly, how one super simple concept, clarity, is the key to finally being understood. Let's dive in. I mean, seriously, think about it. You ask for directions, and what you get is this whirlwind of vague landmarks, street names you've never heard of, all delivered at a million miles an hour. It's just frustrating, right? You're actually more confused than you were before you asked. That exact feeling, that's what we're tackling today. And that whole bad directions thing, well, it's just a tiny example of a much, much bigger problem. It happens at work, it happens at home. Messages are constantly getting twisted, misinterpreted, or just poof, disappearing into thin air. So what is actually going on? Well, this whole mess has a name. It's called a communication barrier. But pay close attention to that last part of the definition, as it was intended. See, it's not enough that someone just hears your words. They have to understand them exactly the way you meant them. These barriers are what create that gap between what we say and what people actually hear. So, if we want to fix this, we've got to understand what these barriers really are. And the good news is they usually fall into three main buckets, which makes them way easier to spot and, take apart. Okay, so first up, you've got the obvious ones. Physical barriers. Think of a terrible connection on a video call or trying to have a serious talk next to a construction site. Easy enough. Then you have psychological barriers. This is stuff like your audience being totally stressed out, distracted by their phone, or even cultural differences that cause a misunderstanding. But honestly, the biggest one, the one we run into all the time, is the language barrier. And I'm not just talking about Spanish versus English. I'm talking about using corporate jargon, slang, or sentences that are just way, way too complicated. So, with all these potential roadblocks, how in the world do we get through? The answer is so powerful, but it's also incredibly simple. It's all about radical clarity. This is hands down our best weapon for making sure our message lands perfectly. Now, getting to the state of clarity, it isn't about adding more or using bigger, fancier words. Nope. It's the complete opposite. It's all about subtraction. It's about stripping away every single word that isn't absolutely necessary, getting rid of every complex idea until you're left with just the pure, essential, easy-to-understand core. You're basically getting rid of all the mental static, making it effortless for your audience to get what you're saying. Let me show you what I mean. Here's a classic example of corporate clutter. The policy pertaining to customer inquiries stipulates that response time shall be no later than 48 hours. Ugh, it's so formal and stuffy. Now, here's the clear version. We answer all customer questions within 48 hours. See that? It's the exact same information, but one is direct, simple, and human. All that junk is just gone. So how can you do this? It really just boils down to three simple steps. First, use short sentences. Seriously, they're just easier for our brains to handle. Second, use words your audience actually knows. Ditch the jargon. And third, this one is huge. Put the most important stuff right up front. Don't bury the lead. Each one of these makes the listener's job so much easier. Okay, so clarity is the foundation. It's everything. But if you want to make sure your most critical points really truly stick in their minds, you need another tool in your belt: emphasis. This is how you literally point a spotlight on the core of your message. And it's not hard to do. For one, just repeat the key point. If it's important, say it again. You can also use vocal stress, changing your tone or volume to make a certain word pop. And finally, you can harness the power of the pause, that little moment of silence right before or after a big idea. It makes people lean in and really listen. All right, all of this, these tips and strategies, it's all leading up to one final, really crucial point. This is about more than just technique. It's about a fundamental shift in how we think about who's responsible when communication works or when it fails. And this right here is the biggest takeaway of all. If the audience doesn't understand, it's not their fault, it's ours. Just let that sink in for a second. That's a huge shift, right? As the person communicating, the burden of being clear is always, always on us. It's our job to build that bridge, to knock down the barriers, and to make sure the message gets through. Taking on that responsibility changes everything. So, I'll leave you with a little challenge. Think about an email you have to write, a conversation you're about to have, or even a presentation you're working on. Knowing what you know now, what's one message you are going to make clearer today? Thanks for listening.